Hey yo, football fans, it's another great year. Fantasy football fiends, grab your beer. Giving you the best draft tips for your picks. Starts and sits to the waiver wire fix. From my drafts galore to stats that's hardcore. Triple F does it all, have y'all screaming more. So sit back, relax, let the experts prevail. JT Magnum, Siggy Guns never fail. Welcome back, fantasy football fans. My name is JT Magnum. Welcome back to the last episode of Fantasy Football Fiends. This is week 16. This is it. You're in the championship game if you're watching this, or you're just watching this because you just like watching me. But still, you're in the championship game if you're in this. I didn't make it to my championship game, unfortunately. I lost by just a few points. I was the number one team in the league, and I had too many injuries at quarterback. I had Andrew Luck out, I had Andy Dalton out. I was trying to make do. I put in Teddy Bridgewater, who had a great game for me. Unfortunately, there was just no other quarterbacks to pick up. I couldn't, I'm in a 2-quarterback league, and it's very difficult. Everybody has everybody, and it's just really, really hard, and I couldn't manage. So the injuries just got to me. Anyways, if you're in a championship game, congratulations. And I'm going to try my best to help you out. I want to make this video as quick as possible. And of course, no text again. Just, normal, just, have to hear me talk, hear my players, and play your best guys. Just, of course, you can ask me on Twitter and everything else as the week goes on. I'll be out of town for the weekend. There will be no more live shows, not until next year. I'll continue to do other stuff, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Let's get into the waiver wires. We have, real quick, Odell Beckham Jr. is out. I just heard right now he is done. He is not playing this game against Minnesota. He lost his appeal, so he will not be playing this game against Minnesota. So Odell Beckham Jr., people that own him, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to find another wide receiver this week. So let's get into the waiver wires. Kirk Cousins, Marcus Wheaton, and Cameron Artis-Payne. Kirk Cousins is not even owned in a lot of leagues, but he's been killing it. He's been absolutely killing it for the Redskins as of late, and he is a great pickup, especially when they're playing the Eagles secondary, who is basically just garbage. They can't cover anybody, and there are a lot of injuries to that secondary, and just like I said, their defense is just not playing well. And Kirk Cousins is going to come in there and eat him up. I think he's going to have a great game. So he's a must waiver wire pickup, especially if you got a quarterback with a bad matchup. Ooh, you definitely want to put Kirk Cousins there. What if you have Eli Manning? He's not throwing to Beckham this week. You might want to put Kirk Cousins in, especially when Eli's playing that Minnesota team. All right, let's get into the starts. Matthew Stafford versus San Francisco, Teddy Bridgewater versus the Giants, and Alex Smith versus Cleveland. And I will talk about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's been on fire as of late. Not necessarily fire, but he's been playing great quarterback, and he's playing a 49er team on the road. Well, at his hometown, but the 49ers are on the road. 49ers have been trash on the road on defense. They're just like a Dr. Jekyll and Hyde team on the road. And they can't cover anybody on the road, it seems like. So look for Stafford to go off this weekend. Running back starts. We got Charcandrick West versus Cleveland. Latavius Murray versus San Diego. And Carlos Williams playing against Dallas at home. And I will talk about Carlos Williams. He's coming off of injury. And he didn't play much last week for the Bills. But he's a tough, hard-nosed runner. Dallas has a hard time stopping the run, especially with what they got going. They got great pass rushers, but they just have a rough time stopping the run. And the Bills like to run the ball with Tyrod Taylor and Carlos. So, LaShawn McCoy, but he's out. So look for Carlos Williams to take over. Nice bruising, fast back. He's going to have a good game against some Cowboys this week, especially at home. Wide receiver starts. We got Martavis Bryant at Baltimore, Jeremy Maclin versus Cleveland, and Golden Tate versus San Francisco. And I'll talk about Golden Tate. He's a man that's been on fire. He started off very slow during the year, and he's caught on as of late. Especially the last 2 or 3 games, he's been doing great. And against the 49ers team, who he owns, Golden Tate has had great games against the 49ers in the past. And looking no further than he's going to have a great game against them this week, especially with that secondary. And like I said, the 49ers played terrible on the road. So tight end starts during the week, or for this week. Jordan Reed at Philly, Zach Ertz versus Washington, and Antonio Gates at Oakland. We'll talk about Zach Ertz. He's been another tight end that's been catching fire as of late. He's been just all these guys come out of nowhere, it seems like, and they start to have good games towards the end of the season. Guys you thought were going to have good games during their first part of the season, and now they're doing it towards the end. These are the guys you want to pick up because they're starting to pick up steam. They're starting to finally get their touches. They're starting to finally get the groove. I know it's too late for some of them, but you know what? It's not too late for fantasy football. So start Zach Ertz. He's a great play this week against the Redskins. Redskins have a pretty decent defense, but they're going to have trouble against him this week. Defensive starts of the week: Chiefs versus Cleveland, Bills versus Dallas, and Lions versus those 49ers. And you already heard enough about the 49ers, how inept they are on offense, so the Lions is a must start. But we'll talk about the Chiefs versus Cleveland. Chiefs have a great secondary. They've been scoring. They got Marcus Peters, who's been intercepting balls. And right now with Johnny Manziel, he might make mistakes. And even if he is playing, I'm not sure if he is playing this week, but I believe so he is. But definitely, if he is, make sure you start the Chiefs defense, especially at home. They play very good at home, so look for them to at least maybe get a couple scores on defense with Johnny Manziel playing maybe an interception, maybe a fumble return, maybe a punt return or a kickoff return. Chiefs are always good for at least one of those during a game, it seems like, so definitely a must play this week. You're trying to break the edge over somebody this week in your fantasy playoff matchup. All right, the sits. Let's get into those. The quarterback sits of the week are Matt Ryan versus Carolina, Tyrod Taylor versus Dallas, and Eli Manning at Minnesota. And I'll talk about Eli Manning. The reason why I have him as a sit this week, no Odell. He's going to be throwing to Ruben Randle and Dwayne Harris. They might have pretty decent games. I think Dwayne Harris is going to be the major factor of the two because Ruben Randle be covered by Xavier Rhodes, who's a very good quarterback for the Vikings. But I don't like... I do not like Eli Manning in this matchup. I think it's just a bad matchup for him this week, especially in Minnesota. And just bad luck, bad timing this week if you have Eli Manning. Let's get into the running backs. Jeremy Hill at Denver, Eddie Lacy at Arizona, and Devonta Freeman versus Carolina. Carolina's been tough against the run. Carolina's been tough on defense. Every now and then they might let some slip, like with the Giants this past week, but I don't like Devonta Freeman. They've been tough against the run. They might not have been great against the pass. They might have let some up last week, but I don't like Devonta Freeman this week against that Carolina defense. They're going to be fired up. They're trying to stay undefeated, and I think this team is just hitting on all cylinders right now. Wide receiver sits. We got Julio Jones versus Carolina. You know why? Josh Norman. He's been shutting down people all year. He actually held Julio Jones. Julio Jones had 7 catches in that game, but when Josh Norman was checking him or covering him, he had 3 catches. That's it. Josh Norman is he's insane. You saw what he did to Beckham last week. If it wasn't for a Beckham push-off, that's the only reason Beckham got his touchdown last week. I watched that game, and I watched Beckham push off. So... he's on fire, man. AJ Green at Denver and Danny Amendola versus New England. And we'll talk about Danny Amendola. He's going to be covered by Revis. And you know what it is, how it is on Revis Island. Tom Brady doesn't care. Tom Brady will throw his way anyways. But I think Revis might have a hard time against Edelman. Like if Edelman were to play. But if Edelman doesn't play and it's Amendola, I think definitely Amendola is going to have a rough time against Revis. I just think Edelman's just a much better receiver than Amendola. So tight end sits. Jason Witten at Buffalo, Richard Rodgers at Arizona, and Gary Barnidge at Kansas City. And Gary Barnidge has been a guy that has been playing very well all season long. He's been pretty much consistent. I think he's like the number 2 rated tight end, or maybe 2 or 3 rated tight end. He's one of the top at least this year. It's been a surprise. But against Kansas City is very tough against tight ends. They're very tough in that secondary, and I don't really like his chances, especially with Manziel throwing to him. It doesn't seem like he's getting all the catches that he was getting earlier in the year. So I don't like him against that Kansas City Chiefs defense this week. Defenses for the sits of the week: Packers at Arizona. Arizona's got that top-ranked offense. Jets versus New England, obviously because of Tom Brady. And Eagles versus Redskins. The Eagles are going to be, like I said, they have no pass defense. Their rush defense has been not that great this year. They've been falling off pretty much the whole year. And I just don't like them against that Redskins offense with Kirk Cousins just leading the way. Kirk Cousins has been on fire. So I don't like them at all this week. I don't like the Eagles this week at all. All right, let's get to the last bit of sleepers for the year. Cameron Artis-Payne, although last week He was on my waiver wire list last week. He's on a lot of people's waiver wires this week now. I don't know why. He should have been picked up last week. But he's playing at Atlanta. Atlanta's giving up a lot of points to running backs. Cameron Payne is going to be the guy this week unless Jonathan Stewart makes some kind of a miracle happen where he can get on the field. I doubt it. They're going to be resting him for the playoffs. So Cameron Payne, look for him to get a 100-yard game. Maybe a couple touchdowns this week because they're going to run him. Dwayne Harris, like I said, the wide receiver from the Giants, playing at Minnesota. Xavier Rhodes is going to be all over Ruben Randle. Ruben Randle hasn't shown that he could be a number one wideout, and Dwayne Harris is going to be an excellent complement number two. He'll do a lot of slant routes. He'll catch a lot of underneath stuff. He's the type of guy that might have a lot of catches this week, obviously because Ruben Randle, like I said, will be covered. And the last one, Denard Robinson at New Orleans. If he plays, it might be TJ Yeldon. We're not sure yet, but TJ Yeldon doesn't look good for him. I believe he's still in the boot or a cast. It doesn't look like he's going to play, so look for Denard Robinson to get the carries at New Orleans, and New Orleans has struggled against the run. You saw it even with Detroit. Detroit ran all over him, and Detroit hasn't been able to run on anybody this year. So look for Denard Robinson to have a good game, especially in that dome under the roof. All right? All right, that does it. Leave your comments in the comment section as usual. Thank you again for the season. It's been great. It's been awesome for you guys. I'm sorry that towards the end of the year, things got a little hectic. Stuff happens. Hopefully next year it won't happen because I'm not moving. I'm in my house. I'm never moving for who knows how long. Unless something happens where, my arms are cut off or something happens where I can't move or something. That's the only way I'm not going to make videos for you guys. So stay tuned for more stuff on Magnum Sports Network. I'm going to start bringing back some of the old shows. I haven't had time to do them, but now that the fantasy football show is done, I'll have more time to do those shows and see, you can check out that stuff. So it keeps the sports going for the year. Mock drafts and all that stuff will come later on the year. I still have Niner news that I do for San Francisco 49er fans. And that's it. Just stay tuned for the more stuff that's got on. If you sub to me just for fantasy football, if you have suggestions for any other sports shows you may want to see, feel free to put them in the comment section, and I'll see what I can work out with Siggy, or I see what I can do just on my own. All right? So for Fantasy Football Fiends and JT Magnum, best of luck this week on your Fantasy Football Championship game. If your championship game is next week, then I'm sorry there's no video for that. I don't really do Week 17 because you never know who's playing, what's going on. But if your championship game is this week, best of luck. If your championship game is next week, feel free to tweet at me or tweet at Siggy, and we'll get your questions answered, all right? So best of luck, and thank you once again for watching, and take care until next season for fantasy football. Well, until mock draft season, all right? Peace, guys.